It's definitely been a long time in the works, but a 6.0 POWERSTROKE has officially arrived for consoles, and I think a lot of y'all are going to absolutely love this truck. So let's go ahead and get the boring stuff out of the way right out of the gate. So essentially what this thing is it's by Glitchworks, and it's got your standard assortment of what Glitchworks usually offers in terms of engine and transmission options and, just your general performance stuff. And of course, it's definitely worth noting that if you don't like higher powered trucks, if you like to keep your trucks a little closer to that sort of vanilla truck performance level, you can totally do that with this truck. Just go ahead and leave it on the stock tune, because that's going to be fairly close to what a lot of vanilla trucks are going to feel like. And then as far as wheel and tire selection goes, you've got a range. You can go very thick sidewall and very almost not necessarily performance style, but very commercial truck setup. But of course, if that's not the style that you're interested in going for, you can also go super deep dish, very show truck-esque polished wheels. Now, of course, these wheels are not branded. They're not necessarily based on any one brand in particular, although I'm sure that you could draw your own comparisons from other wheels that you've seen out in the world. And at the end of the day, with a lot of these console mods, there are just elements of them where you do have to use your own imagination. And there's honestly nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's just sometimes people are fine with using their imagination. And other times they're not so interested in using their imagination. But that's honestly all up to you. Now, I know I mentioned earlier in the video that a lot of people were looking forward to a truck like this on consoles, specifically a 6.0 generation POWERSTROKE. And I think that these trucks have, well, obviously these trucks have a massive following. They always have, but there's also no shortage of criticisms of the 6.0s. I mean, if you go online and you type in 6.0 POWERSTROKE problems into Google, you will get an absolutely gnarly list of suggestions, including the ability to search specific problems by year. So obviously these trucks are very heavily documented, and what breaks typically is heavily documented. Also, a lot of the fixes and a lot of the maintenance for these trucks is heavily documented too. So honestly, in a way, that can kind of make it a little bit better, because if you're the type of person that works on one of these trucks yourself, there's a lot of resources about these trucks just kind of floating around out there in the world. And that's not to say that these are bad trucks. That's just to say I think that they are, I would not call them bad, but I would definitely call them quirky. Also, just another thing that I noticed about this truck is that when it's at sort of when the suspension is, I guess, at rest, or I guess a better term would be unloaded, it leans very, very far forward. And keep in mind, I don't actually even have any extra weight on the front end of the truck at this present moment. So honestly, it's kind of one of those things where, yes, I know that this is a dually, and yes, I know that it's meant to be able to have that load-bearing capacity in the rear suspension, and that's probably why it's higher. However, when I'm driving it around without a trailer, I would definitely like the ability to be able to level it out a bit. Now, you may get mad at me in the comments for saying that. You may get very upset and say, well, why would you ever want to level out a dually? That's not what it's for. But at the same time, I guess what I'm kind of saying is I would rather that the truck sat level when it was unloaded, or rather when I wasn't using it to tow anything. And then the adjustable suspension option would be to raise just the rear whenever I was going to put some weight on the truck, so that once I put that weight on it, then it would just level back out again. But then again, that is very much so a personal preference, and everybody has very specific preferences when it comes to how a lot of these trucks will essentially sit. And it's odd because a lot of people seem to care more about how these trucks sit when they're unloaded as opposed to how they sit when they are loaded. And I think that that's just it's kind of an odd phenomenon of trucks in general. But then again, you also have people that, they have a dually that they use for work or for like a small business, for example, but it's also their daily. And so I think when you have someone that uses a truck for that many different things, all out of the same vehicle, I guess I can kind of see where some of the differences in terms of how you actually want the truck to sit and how you want it to look, I guess kind of just how those differences present themselves. Although, I mean, if it was me personally, and like I was using a truck like this for work, I would probably just, in an ideal situation, I would have this as just a dedicated work rig and then have like, I don't know, have like a small fun like hot hatch or something to daily. But that's also not to take anything at all away from someone that does daily a truck like this. I mean, I personally know people in the real world that do daily trucks like this. So it's kind of one of those things where it is what it is, and however you want to go about using one of these is entirely up to you. And the beauty of this is that when it comes to using this truck in game, you can use it for essentially whatever you want to use it for. Now, obviously, it does have its sort of targeted use case scenario, which is pretty much hauling gooseneck trailers. However, if you wanted to use it as a scout or a recovery rig, you could honestly do that with it as well, and it wouldn't really punish you at all for doing it. Now, do I think that personally you should pick this thing up? I mean, I think you should. I think you absolutely should, because a couple of reasons why I think you absolutely should. One, because for one, a lot of people just have always wanted a 6.0 in game. And also, just to briefly talk about this rollover specifically, this rollover I did not see happening like whatsoever. I did not think it was going to happen, but I bounced off that rock and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, so this is happening now. And I was just not really in the space where I thought I was going to even remotely deal with a rollover situation. So the fact that it even happened the way it did is really funny to me, because I thought I was going to get through this entire video without having a rollover. Although on the other side of that, if you as the viewer were specifically waiting for a rollover so you could go down into the comments and type, "Ha! You rolled it," in the comments, well, congratulations. Here's your chance. You better get to typing. But circling back around to the truck itself, I honestly really like this thing. I think it's going to be a really good truck for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are really going to honestly just get a lot of fun out of it and just get a lot of overall enjoyment out of the truck, because at the end of the day, it is a very heavily requested truck. And I know that some people might say, well, it looks too similar to a lot of the 7.3 trucks, but I think a lot of people that are genuinely dedicated fans of these trucks in particular will care about the fact that there is a mod distinguishing a 7.3 truck versus a 6.0 truck. Because while some people might not really care about that difference or about that particular designation, some people that are dedicated fans of this platform absolutely will care, and absolutely will, honestly, I think, continue to care, because for a lot of people, I think, when the engine is like the starring role of the truck, even if the body style looks like similar or almost exactly the same in some cases, I mean, obviously there are little distinctions, but I think a lot of people, what I'm saying essentially in a lot less words, is that a lot of people are going to be happy that the designation of officially having a 6.0 on consoles is going to be something that a lot of people are genuinely happy about. And with that, let me know your thoughts and opinions on this thing in the comments down below. Will you be checking it out? Are you going to be getting your hands on it? Are you going to be kind of bringing it into your own modded playthrough, or maybe using it in some RP scenarios? Or is it a truck that you're like, yeah, it's cool, but I don't necessarily feel like I need it? So I'm sure I'll get a variety of answers down there in the comments, and that's always definitely one of the more entertaining things about being on this platform, is the variety, the delightful variety of the comments that you get. But with all of that being said and done, hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time.